we should have a moment of silence
for someone special that we all know and love.
We all knew him at some point, and I think we all had various experiences with them. Some may have been positive, some may have been forgettable.
In this moment of peace, let's remember the good.
Because they were around for a while, and we can celebrate the fact that they had a really impressive prime.
Historic.
We haven't seen a prime like that since the beginning, honestly. So at 27 years old, Microsoft ended support for Internet Explorer today on Wednesday, June 15th, as we record this. No more security updates, no more software updates, no more patches. If you are still using it, I guess it theoretically might still work.
Yeah,
but
if you're still using it, you probably don't care about security patches or anything.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But let's just take a quick couple seconds to eulogize Internet Explorer. The number one Chrome downloader of all time.
Number one of all time.
Easily.
Yeah.
I saw a chart actually just the other day. I'm going to link a tweet. It was not a chart. It was a animated chart. Showing the market share of different web browsers over time. And it's, Netscape is kind of dominant for a while. Internet Explorer comes up. Internet Explorer, I didn't know this, but in like the early 2000s got to 95% market share.
Yeah, it was in 2000. I think it was like Q2 2004.
Talk about 95. Blowing a massive lead. That is what a lead.
That's one way to look at it.
What a lead Microsoft had in web browsers. And, Firefox was on the come up for a while. I think they got as high as 20-something%.
Did they?
Which is higher actually than I expected. It seemed like there was a big three for a while. There were people on Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer. So Chrome, I guess, sort of erupted and became the number one. But that was what I saw on a lot of computers. And then Chrome, is the dominant one now, but nowhere near 95. 95 is crazy. I think Chrome is at like 80, something like that.
And that's like, if you're doing like all devices, it's because it's on so many Android phones. It's the default. So like also why Safari's up there really high as well.
Safari, every iPhone uses, well, not everyone. Well, but everyone comes with Safari.
Exactly. And that's why Internet Explorer was so Windows like that. I mean, there's probably will still be people using Internet Explorer for a very long time, but I think Internet Explorer did a great job at raising its kin, Microsoft Edge.
Yep.
Microsoft Edge. I know there are a lot of fans out there. I think most of us had already picked our browser loyalty of choice, so maybe we're not Edge users, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. So let's hope it has a similar historic lifetime. It's
the competition's good.
Apparent. Yeah. Good competition. Yeah.
Appreciate you, IE.
But yeah, that's it. Goodbye, Internet Explorer. I think we need what was it, 1995 to 2022? Yeah.
2022.
Good job. Okay, I have on here a little story time to start the podcast off today.
Okay.
If anybody follows us on Twitter or watches the video podcast, you may have realized last week looked a little different.
Sure.
Yeah. To start this off, Adam was on vacation last week. We all love Adam. He deserves a vacation. We will never let him go on one again after last. But so pretty much in the process of the podcast, which was actually a pretty intense one because we went to WWDC, we flew out, got back Wednesday. We had a virtual interview with 2 Apple execs. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different things going on. With Adam gone, I was in charge of editing the video portion of the podcast last week. Now, being someone who's not very good at Final Cut and a previous Premiere user and someone who hasn't edited at all in 2 years, I was feeling okay going into it, and brought everything into Premiere, had everything lined up. Ellis was doing all the mixing of the audio stuff while I was doing all the cutting and the camera switching, and that was all feeling really good. I was feeling really confident, and we were really, really on pace to get everything out on time on Friday. And then we export the first cut for the audio stuff. And because then after that, I had to add B-roll and video ads and such like that. And there's this crackling noise. And we'll make sure we'll edit some of the crackling noise into this video so people can hear this audio. Yeah, so people can hear it.
Just okay, you guys have all caught on that we do extreme transitions. This one is just going to be Craig doing extreme transitions.
Yeah, I think they saw how he got memed with the, remember him opening up the laptop? It drove me insane. It was really bad, and we almost didn't catch it, actually, because weirdly enough, wasn't on the timeline, And then after we exported it, it actually started playing in the timeline on Premiere. So in the export file and now on the timeline, I was listening to this crackling. I mean, it was just like constant, like.
That's my least favorite type of error, which is, and this happens in Final Cut too with some plugins where it will play back perfectly on the timeline, and then you export the video, and then the exported video, it messes up. Like this has happened with like motion track things before, or I'll add like a sensor over a license plate, and it tracks the license plate around the frame, and then I'll export the video, and then it'll track like the car tire around the frame in the export. I'm like, that's not what you showed me on the timeline at all. So it's even more hard to fix something like that.
I remember you doing one once where it was like a lower third somewhere describing something, and then rather than it going horizontally, it went vertically in the export, and then on the timeline was totally fine, but the export.
So like, how do I fix this on the timeline? Do I just make it look ridiculous on the timeline and then it looks perfect in the export? It's weird.
Yeah. So at first, Ellis and I are like looking over this. We hear the crackling. We're trying to figure out what's going on. It's not playing. If I closed Premiere, it would stop playing in the timeline, but then it would still play in the exports and then eventually come back in the timeline. We were changing different audio codecs. We were changing like all the different ways to export it. We were exporting it in video, even though we only needed the audio. We were bringing it into media encoder. Nothing. I think I have 30 plus exports on my desktop and in my trash right now. And we just could not figure it out. So eventually we thought there were two solutions to this. Run it through this decrackling filter that Ellis had, or I was going to bring our Rodecaster, our audio interface in. I was going to plug my computer into it and play it in real time into the Rodecaster
to create another clean recording.
Exactly.
Wow.
So we went with the decrackle filter. It sounded like very, very, very close to being right. That's what we actually wound up bringing into the audio on Thursday night, bring it back Friday morning, try and bring it in. So I actually took the export and the clean audio, brought it into Final Cut. And before I added the clean audio, it was fine in Final Cut. The export from Adobe was working with no crackles in Final Cut.
Oh, so you'd play it back like in QuickTime or something and hear the crackle.
Yeah.
But when you imported that exact file into Final Cut Pro and play it back on the Final Cut Pro timeline,
no crackle.
No crackle.
Yep. So I think we have it fixed. And then I export it from Final Cut and the crackle's there.
Yeah. Wow.
This was like the most infuriating 12 hours, I feel like, that I've experienced in a while.
Yeah. And it wasn't in the raw recording.
No, it was not in the raw recording.
So the game is trying to find where that crackle was introduced. At what point?
It was very hard. Eventually what we came down to, Ellis dove into my Premiere project while I was trying to fix everything on a different computer. So we could, because like, if you watch the video podcast, it was like 4 hours late on Friday. It was pretty late. But so what happens is our audio interface drifts a very small amount. But when you're recording 45 plus minutes, you have to fix that. Mm-hmm. So I do a speed change to the audio by a very, very, very small percentage. I think it's playing back at 100.012% to fix that. And there's a button on there called match pitch or adjust for pitch.
Right, because when you speed up audio past a certain amount, you'll notice it starts getting chipmunky. So, and you slow it down and it drops.
To me, that felt like an extra thing to press to mess things up, right? Like, why would I trust Adobe in fixing something in that? And it sounded fine. And then Ellis turns that off and everything works perfectly. And that was it. Wanted to tell the story here because I tweeted about it and I had dozens of tweets of people having similar issues with some really, really wacky solutions. One was to put a blanket audio transition over all of the audio with a 2-frame crossfade on it. And people said that worked. And that felt like one of those super hacky, dumb things that should work when it comes to video editing. I'm sure if you edit video out there, you've encountered something like this before.
There's all kinds of weird hacks that work sometimes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to tell this story because if there is one person out there that listens to this and has this issue in the future,
try that checkbox.
If it solves that, I will be happy and will feel like I accomplished something in this world.
I've had some of the craziest, like, weird, annoying bugs. I remember back when we had the Trash Can Mac Pro, had an export that, and this is always the game. Like, you get to a certain point and something breaks. Mm-hmm. So this was an export where I would get like halfway through rendering the whole thing in Final Cut Pro, and then it would freeze and stop responding. And I'd be like, okay, so that means there's something somewhere in the video that is making Final Cut Pro freeze and stop responding. And one by one, I go through and I remove all the plugins and I remove all the titles and I remove things, and it still doesn't make it through without freezing and stopping responding. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, this is also one of those embargoed videos. So it's like, it needs to be live by tomorrow at 9 a.m. or it's, not going to work. So long story short, I remember moving files from this computer to the main gear to try to edit it in Premiere, or at least take that file, export it again in Premiere, and take that new file back into Final Cut Pro to edit it. So we were round tripping all kinds of stuff.
I remember that. Yeah.
It finally, we did eventually make it work, but it was quite hacked.
That sounds like,
So,
I've had that before where I can see where it's messing up in the export. So I had to take that video clip and turn it to 99% opacity in Final Cut.
Weird.
And then that, you don't notice that difference at all.
Right.
And then cruise
Then it
right
was
through
fine.
it like nothing ever happened.
I did have recently, though, on the Mac Studio, because this machine's been crushing, knock wood. There's no wood in here.
There's
Oh,
no
God.
wood. So next upload will be a little late.
Yeah, for sure. No, it got like, 25% into the export and then crashed. I was like, oh no, something's wrong with this project file I've been building. I open it back up, and the error message, basically it tells me the exact timestamp of what it got to when it crashed. I went to that, found the plugin, deleted it, did something different there, and export worked perfectly. And I was like, wow, when tech works, it really works. But
That sounds fantastic.
that was the best case error message for me.
That sounds great.
Best thing that ever
So,
happened.
moral of the story here is we will never let Adam leave this studio ever again for the rest of my life.
Sounds like it.
You're stuck here. I will chain you to that desk. Cool. I think that's an episode.
Sweet.
Good job. Let's slate real quick.
I'm glad these mics work so well. You know what we got to do? We got to get the nothing phone out the embargo.
Oh, yeah. We have to shoot that for next week.